Hello and welcome to TelecomTV. My name is Martin Warwick and I'm talking with Cam Cullen, who is VP of Marketing at Procera Networks. Cam, welcome. Thanks for talking to us. As a network functions vendor, what's your view of networks functions virtualization? Do you regard it as being a challenge or an opportunity or a mixture of the two?
It's definitely a mixture. Getting to where you need to be is a challenge, but once you get there, I think there's a big opportunity. For us, it'll allow us to transform not only our offerings to operators, but transform our company into a pure software company, which is where we really want to be as a vendor.
Okay, thank you. So what is your strategy moving forward? And if you want to be a software company purely and straightforward, not necessarily simply, what is your strategy moving forwards towards being an NFV vendor? How fast are you seeing the market moving from being reliant on physical devices and moving to full virtualization? What's happening at the moment?
Well, for us, the part of the network we're in is in the data plane. So we're tens and hundreds of gigabits of traffic. So the first thing that we had to do for operators is get them over the fear that NFV couldn't handle high-performance applications.
Sure.
That takes some proof points. You have to prove it. They have to test it in the labs. They have to get comfortable with it. And I think that is where, once we get them over that hump, then it will enable us to turn into that pure software vendor that we want to be and not have to worry about selling hardware where we've traditionally had to sell hardware as part of our offering, even though there wasn't really any value added to offer it.
Is it a hard sell? I mean, is there concern among the operator community that NFV isn't all it's cracked up to be?
I think the biggest reservations right now seem to be around the management and orchestration layer. I think there are a lot of operators that are becoming converts to NFV. They maybe thought it was a great idea, but they weren't sure about it. More customers are asking us for NFV every day. So we think we're getting over that hump, but there are still some customers who are very much, they like big boxes, they like to see hardware, and those, they're going to take some convincing.
Does that apply particularly to Tier 1 carriers or Tier 2? Is it across the board? And what about the OTT players?
It's definitely more Tier 1s. The customers that end with a T, DT, NTT, AT&T, they have traditionally been very hardware. They like to see big boxes, and in some ways they actually like to be able to blame one vendor. And NFV spreads that risk out essentially. So there is some concern amongst the large Tier 1s that I can't just blame one vendor now. I have to work with the orchestration vendor, the hypervisor, and the vendor itself. So that is something that has to be worked out as part of a support strategy to large customers.
So given the reaction you're getting from some of your clients or potential clients, is that affecting the way in which Procera approaches the market?
It actually has. We put a lot more effort into the orchestration early in the cycle than I think many people did. We also focused initially very much on performance. So that was a big level of effort to get over that hump with customers so that we could have the conversations around deployment rather than getting stuck in the prove to me that you can perform. We've now got past that. So it did guide our early investments.
Given the fact that the majority of networks are still physical, with wire, copper, and whatever else it may be in the boxes that you're talking about, and the move to virtualization is on its way but isn't complete by any means yet, they're going to have to coexist, these two states, aren't they? The physical state and the virtual state. What does that mean for Procera?
Well, it's actually a very good thing for a company that sells hardware today but wants to sell hardware in the future. Imagine a business model where suddenly you get paid every year rather than getting a 5-year contract. So our revenue, if this was a cliff, would dive.
Yeah, sure.
So that's not necessarily a good thing. So that transition over time to a virtualized environment will allow us to shift the model. In fact, the early parts of the virtualization market for us are markets that we don't sell to today. So it's an expansion of our addressable market, which will allow us to buffer as our customers switch from the perpetual model to a more virtualized annual subscription model.
One of the phenomena we're seeing more and more these days is collaboration between bigger and smaller companies and big companies with big companies who would have been in the past mortal enemies,
right,
and who have stabbed each other to death to avoid being seen with each other in a bar. So why did you decide to work with Alcatel Lucent and Cloudband when there are others out there you could collaborate with?
Well, Alcatel Lucent with Cloudband was one of the early movers. They were one of the first companies to stand up and say, we see this is going to be an enabler to the market, and it's something that's needed.
Yeah.
One of the ironies around NFV is operators came up with the idea of NFV to free themselves from vendors, and then realized that they would have to do all the integration themselves unless they had a partner vendor maybe to help them do that. And Alcatel was the first to step up and do that, which is really why we started working with them from the beginning.
So you're in collaboration, partnership with Alcatel-Lucent. So far, what have you achieved together, and what's it been like working with them?
It's been interesting because they were not a partner of ours in the past. As you said, I wouldn't say we were a mortal enemy, but we were someone who they would have rather not seen in an account because we can take revenue where areas they might have wanted. Yeah. But we've been able to work with them on some customers that we've shared in common, that we were in the same network with them, but there was no touch point. And as NFV rolls on, they are likely to be the customer, the vendor that the customer turns to say, we want you to organize this. So establishing a good relationship from the beginning is going to make that a smoother transition. It'll help stimulate both the deployment of NFV at that operator as well as for us open up more opportunities. So it's been very beneficial for us to work with Alcatel.
So you're working with them now. Presumably it's an ongoing relationship and it will continue. So what are going to be the next steps for you? As we see NFV becoming more mainstream, as we see the hype cycle die away and reality obtrude, and we see the POCs, the proofs of concept, being completed, trials being completed, and real-world implementation taking place, what are you going to do next?
Well, I think it really is around the commercialization. So we've done some proof of concepts. We've done the integration with Cloudband. Where the next step for us is really turning this into commercial agreements with customers. We see our relationship evolve from not just the places where we happen to be together today, but in new opportunities where Cloudband will present a menu. Oh, you need this function. Procera is a vendor that provides that function. They're fully integrated, so it becomes easier for us to work with customers that want our solution that are already using Cloudband because they may select us because Alcatel has already done the integration work with us.
Okay, and is your market global, regional, or whatever, and will and does the partnership with Alcatel-Lucent make a difference to that?
Yeah, so we're global. We have customers in about 83 countries worldwide. Some of our first opportunities are in Asia, for example. So this is a worldwide opportunity for us. It will stimulate opportunities in maybe regions where we're not as prevalent as we'd like to be. And there are some regions like Central and Latin America and Africa where there isn't a lot of presence for technology like ours that are going to be first to deploy NFV because it's harder to get hardware into those
Sure.
regions. So there's a big benefit for us in those areas.
Interesting. Cam Cullen, thank you.
Thank you very much.